This is the 85mm 1.4 lens from Samyang, and I'm pretty sure that this is my new favorite lens. If you've watched some of my other videos, then you'll know that I've pretty much exclusively used the Sigma 24-70 f2.8 Art Series lens for over a year now, but there's something special about the 85-1.4 that might overthrow the 24-70 as my go-to lens. This is the version 2 of the 85-1.4 from Samyang, and you can pick it up for just over $1,000 Canadian. That's over $1,200 cheaper than the G Master 85-1.4. Now, I've never used the G Master 85, but after using this Samyang lens for a couple of months now, I'd have a pretty hard time being convinced that it's worth more than double the cost of the Samyang for a G Master. I'm honestly blown away by how sharp this lens is and how buttery smooth the 1.4 aperture looks. 85mm is also just the perfect focal length for portraits, and I can see now why so many photographers love the 85mm so much for portrait work. I've used 50mm lenses in the past for portraits, which is also another really common and a really nice focal length for portraits, but again, there's just something about the 85 that just looks better in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, the 24-70 is still a must-have lens for me as it covers my bases probably 90% of the time, but the 85mm is just a nice special lens to have. Maybe it's the added compression shooting at a longer focal length, or maybe it's the 1.4 aperture, but there's just something about the look of the photos that just feels different to me, and I absolutely love it. It's also a lot smaller and lighter compared to the 24-70, weighing in at only 546 grams compared to the 867 grams of the 24-70. This makes the 85mm much more ideal to carry around on a day trip or to have it on my camera when it's clipped to my backpack. This is obviously because with a prime lens like an 85, you have much less moving parts inside the lens compared to a zoom lens like the 24-70. This is just one benefit of prime lenses over zoom lenses, but that's a whole video in and of itself. The autofocus on this lens so far has been fantastic from a photo perspective. From a video perspective, I actually haven't shot any video on this lens as that's not what I purchased it for. I bought the lens to be my go-to portrait and street photography lens, and it's looking like it's gonna be just that. It is weather sealed, has a programmable button and a mode switch on the lens, which by default allows you to control the aperture with the focus ring when it's in autofocus. For Sony, you have a few other options when it comes to 85mm 1.4 lenses. You obviously have the G Master 85-1.4, you have the Sigma 85-1.4, and then you have this Samyang 85-1.4. For Sigma, there's also a bigger, older version of the 85-1.4, which I actually have tested out myself, and it's pretty sharp, but it's absolutely massive and way too big to be something that I would even consider carrying around with my camera. The newer Sigma 85-1.4 is significantly smaller and lighter, and unfortunately, I haven't had the chance to test out this lens yet. There is also a version 1 of this Samyang 85-1.4, which is even cheaper, and from what I've seen online, it's also quite a good lens. I was torn between going with the Sigma 85-1.4 and this Samyang 1.4. But I ultimately decided to go with the Samyang because it was a little bit cheaper, and from everything that I had seen online, I was pretty confident that it was going to be a good purchase. And now, after using this lens for a few months, I can without a doubt recommend this lens to anyone, especially if you have any inclination towards shooting street photography or portraits. Alright, that's it for this video. I hope that you found it helpful. If you did and you want to keep seeing stuff like this, then be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out on my next video. I'll see you guys in the next one.